The wind cut through me like a knife as I pulled into my son Derek's driveway that Thanksgiving afternoon. Snow was falling hard, and the temperature had dropped to 15 degrees. I could see my breath in the cold air as I stepped out of my car. I wasn't expected. I had decided to surprise the family with an early visit before heading to my sister's house for dinner. That's when I saw him. Little Jamal, my 8-year-old grandson, was sitting on the front steps of the house. He was wearing nothing but a thin t-shirt and shorts. His little body was shaking so hard I could see it from 50 feet away. His lips were blue. His fingers looked almost purple from the cold. My heart stopped. I ran toward him as fast as my 67-year-old legs could carry me. "Jamal, baby, what are you doing out here?" I shouted, wrapping my coat around his tiny shoulders. He looked up at me with tears frozen on his cheeks. "Grandma Rose, I can't go inside. Daddy said I have to stay out here until I learn my lesson." "What lesson? It's 15 degrees outside. You could freeze to death." Through the front window, I could see the warm glow of the dining room. My son Derek was there, laughing with his wife Brittany and their other 2 kids, Madison and Tyler. They were all sitting around a beautiful table covered with turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and all the Thanksgiving fixings. The house looked perfect and cozy from the outside, but my grandson was dying of cold on the front porch. "Jamal, how long have you been out here?" I asked, picking him up. His little body felt like ice. "Since this morning, Grandma. I spilled some juice on Madison's new dress by accident. Daddy got really mad. He said I ruin everything, and I don't deserve to eat with the family." I felt my blood boil. Derek had locked an 8-year-old child outside in freezing weather over spilled juice. While they ate their fancy Thanksgiving dinner, my grandson could have died from the cold. I carried Jamal to my car and turned on the heat full blast. "Baby, you stay right here where it's warm. Grandma is going to have a talk with your daddy." I marched up to the front door and tried the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. They had locked a child out of his own home on Thanksgiving Day. I could hear them laughing and talking inside. Through the window, I watched Derek cutting the turkey while Brittany poured wine. Madison and Tyler were arguing over who got the bigger piece of pie. They looked like the perfect family having the perfect holiday, except for the child they had abandoned outside to freeze. I knocked on the door, hard. "Derek, open this door right now." The talking inside got quieter. I knocked again, even harder. "Derek Christopher Williams, you open this door this instant." Finally, I heard footsteps. The lock clicked, and Derek opened the door with an annoyed look on his face. He was wearing a nice sweater and had gravy on his fingers from the meal. "Mom, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to Aunt Patricia's house today." "I found Jamal outside," I said, my voice shaking with anger. In 15-degree weather, in a t-shirt and shorts, Derek's face didn't change. He's learning a lesson about being more careful. Maybe next time he won't spill things on his sister's clothes. He could have died, Derek. He could have frozen to death. He's fine. Kids are tougher than you think. That's when I looked past Derek into the warm, bright dining room. Brittany was still sitting at the table, cutting her turkey like nothing was wrong. Madison and Tyler were eating rolls and laughing at something on Tyler's phone. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. It was everything Thanksgiving should be. Except They had thrown away one of their children like garbage. I pushed past Derek and walked into the house. The warmth hit me immediately. It was probably 75 degrees inside, comfortable and cozy, while Jamal had been sitting outside in deadly cold. "Where do you think you're going?" Derek asked, following me. I stood in the doorway of the dining room and looked at all of them. Brittany finally looked up from her plate. Madison and Tyler kept eating like nothing was happening. "Jamal has been outside for hours in freezing weather," I announced to the room. Brittany shrugged. "He needs to learn to be more responsible. We can't have him destroying everyone's nice things. He's 8 years old." "Old enough to know better," Derek said. "Mom, this is our house and our rules. Jamal will come inside when he's learned his lesson." "His lesson? The lesson that his family will throw him away the second he makes a mistake?" Tyler looked up from his phone for the first time. "Grandma, Jamal is always messing stuff up. He broke my video game last week and got Madison's dress all sticky today. Maybe he should learn to be more careful." Madison nodded. "Yeah, I saved up my allowance for 3 months to buy that dress. Now it's ruined because Jamal can't watch where he's going." I stared at these people, my own family. They were talking about an 8-year-old child like he was some kind of pest they needed to get rid of. They were eating their perfect Thanksgiving dinner, while that same child sat outside in weather that could kill him. "Get your coats," I said quietly. "All of you, right now." "What?" Brittany laughed. "We're not going anywhere. We're having Thanksgiving dinner. You're going to sit outside for 10 minutes in the cold so you can understand what you did to Jamal." Derek stepped toward me. "Mom, you're being ridiculous. This is our house. You can't tell us what to do." "Then I'm taking Jamal with me, forever." The room went silent. Derek and Brittany looked at each other. Madison and Tyler stopped eating. "You can't do that," Brittany said. "He's our son." "Your son who you left outside to freeze to death? That son?" I turned around and walked toward the front door. Derek grabbed my arm. "Mom, wait. Let's talk about this." I pulled my arm away. "There's nothing to talk about. You people are monsters." I walked outside to my car, where Jamal was sitting in the passenger seat with my coat wrapped around him. He was starting to warm up, but he was still shivering. "Grandma, am I in trouble?" he asked in a small voice. "No, baby, you're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong." "Daddy says I ruin everything." I felt tears in my eyes. "Your daddy is wrong, Jamal. You don't ruin anything. You're a wonderful little boy, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you." I started the car and backed out of the driveway. Through the front window, I could see Derek and Brittany standing in their warm dining room, watching us leave. They looked angry, not worried, not sad that their child was leaving, just angry that someone had called them out on their cruelty. As we drove away, Jamal fell asleep in the passenger seat. His breathing was finally normal, and some color had returned to his cheeks. But I knew this wasn't over. I couldn't just take someone else's child, even if they were treating him terribly. But I also couldn't let them keep hurting him. I drove to my sister Patricia's house, where the rest of our family was gathering for Thanksgiving dinner. When Patricia opened the door and saw Jamal wrapped in my coat, her face went white. "Rose, what happened? Is he okay?" Derek and Brittany locked him outside in the cold as punishment. For hours. "He could have died." Patricia gasped and immediately helped me carry Jamal inside. Within minutes, my whole family knew what had happened. My brother Marcus started pacing around the living room, talking about calling the police. My other sister Angela was crying. Everyone was shocked and angry. But the person who surprised me most was my nephew Terrell, Patricia's oldest son. Terrell was a lawyer, and he was usually very calm and quiet. But when he heard what happened to Jamal, his face got hard and serious. Aunt Rose, kill me. Dumb. We need to document everything. Take pictures of Jamal's condition. Write down exactly what happened and when. Get witness statements from anyone who saw him outside. Why? I asked. Because you're going to fight for custody of that little boy, and you're going to win. Comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 5,000 subscriber milestone. We're so close, and every single one counts. It's free for you, but it means everything to this channel. And hey, while you're at it, I've left a video and also a link to a playlist on the final screen that I promise will surprise you. Seriously, don't miss them. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. Now go hit that button and be part of the journey. The next morning, I woke up in Patricia's guest room with Jamal curled up next to me. He had refused to sleep alone, too scared that someone would make him go back outside. Every few hours during the night, he would wake up shivering and checking to make sure he was still warm and safe. My phone had been buzzing all night. 23 missed calls from Derek, 15 text messages from Brittany. I hadn't answered any of them. When Jamal woke up, the first thing he said was, "Grandma, do I have to go home today?" My heart broke all over again. "Not if you don't want to, baby, but we need to talk about some grown-up stuff, okay?" That afternoon, my nephew Terrell came over with a folder full of papers. He sat down with me at Patricia's kitchen table, while Jamal played video games with his cousins in the living room. "Aunt Rose, I've been doing research all night. What Derek and Brittany did is called child endangerment. In this state, leaving a child outside in freezing weather could be charged as a felony." A felony? Yes, and based on what you've told me about how they treat Jamal compared to their other kids, we might also have a case for emotional abuse and neglect. I thought about all the stories Jamal had told me over the years, how he was always the one who got in trouble, how Derek would yell at him for things that Madison and Tyler did without consequences, how Brittany would make him eat in his room when the rest of the family ate together, saying he was too messy for the dining room. "What do we need to do?" I asked. "First, we're taking Jamal to the doctor to document any effects from yesterday. Then we're filing for emergency custody. I've already started the paperwork." Just then, my phone rang again. Derek's name flashed on the screen. "Answer it," Terrell said, "but put it on speakerphone. I want to hear what he says." I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Derek. Mom, thank God. Where is Jamal? We need him to come home right now." "He's safe. That's all you need to know." "Mom, this is kidnapping. You can't just take our son." "I didn't take him. I rescued him. There's a difference." Derek's voice got louder. "You're being dramatic. Jamal is fine. We were just teaching him some discipline." "Derek, it was 15 degrees outside. He could have died." "But he didn't die, did he? Look, Mom. Bring him home and we can forget this whole thing happened." Terrell was writing notes on his legal pad, nodding for me to keep Derek talking. Forget it happened? Derek, you locked an 8-year-old child outside in deadly weather while you ate Thanksgiving dinner. I will never forget that. It wasn't deadly weather. You're exaggerating everything like you always do. Then you won't mind if I call the police and tell them what happened? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Finally, Derek spoke again, and his voice sounded different, worried. Mom, let's not involve the police. This is a family matter. We can work this out. The time to work it out was before you nearly killed your son. I didn't nearly kill anyone. Jamal is dramatic, just like you. He probably wasn't even that cold. Terrell held up a sign that said, "Ask about the other kids." Derek, where were Madison and Tyler yesterday when Jamal was outside? They were inside eating dinner with us. Why? So Madison and Tyler got to eat Thanksgiving dinner, but Jamal didn't? Jamal was being punished. Madison and Tyler weren't. For spilling juice? For being careless and destructive. Mom, you don't understand what it's like raising that kid. He's not like the other two. He's difficult. I felt my anger rising again. He's 8 years old, Derek. 8-year-old children spill things sometimes. Not Madison and Tyler. They've never destroyed anyone's property like Jamal does. Terrell wrote another note. Get him to admit differential treatment. So you're saying you treat Jamal differently than Madison and Tyler? Of course we do. They behave differently, so they get treated differently. That's how parenting works. Derek, do you hear yourself? You're talking about punishing one child more harshly than the others. Because one child needs more discipline than the others. Terrell was nodding and writing frantically. Derek was basically confessing to everything we needed to prove in court. Derek, I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you think it was appropriate to lock Jamal outside in 15-degree weather for hours? Yes, I do. He needs to learn that actions have consequences. And you think the consequence for spilling juice should be potentially freezing to death? Oh my God, Mom, he wasn't going to freeze to death. Stop being so dramatic. Derek, the doctor says Jamal was showing early signs of hypothermia when I found him. That was actually true. We had taken Jamal to the emergency room that morning, and the doctor had been horrified by what happened. He said another hour outside could have put Jamal in serious danger. What doctor? You took him to a doctor? Of course I did. When a child has been exposed to freezing temperatures for hours, responsible adults take them to get medical attention. Mom, bring Jamal home right now, or I'm calling the police myself. Go ahead and call them, Derek. I'm sure they'll be very interested to hear about how you endangered your child. Derek hung up on me. Terrell looked up from his notes. Aunt Rose, that was perfect. He just admitted to everything we need. Differential treatment, child endangerment, and refusing to acknowledge that what he did was wrong. What happens next? Now we go to court. 3 days later, I was sitting in a courthouse waiting room with Jamal, Terrell, and a social worker named Mrs. Henderson. Mrs. Henderson had visited Patricia's house the day before to interview Jamal about his home life. What she discovered made my stomach sick. Jamal told her that being locked outside wasn't the first time Derek and Brittany had punished him while leaving Madison and Tyler alone. Last month, they had made him sleep in the garage for a week after he accidentally broke a lamp. In the summer, they had made him stay in his room for an entire weekend, without meals, while the rest of the family went to an amusement park. Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Henderson had said to me after the interview, "This child has been systematically isolated and mistreated. What happened on Thanksgiving was just the most dangerous incident in a long pattern of abuse." Now we were waiting to see the judge. Derek and Brittany were sitting on the other side of the waiting room with their lawyer. They kept looking over at us with angry faces, like we were the ones who had done something wrong. Madison and Tyler were there too, sitting next to their parents and whispering to each other. Every once in a while, Tyler would point at Jamal and say something that made Madison laugh. Even in the courthouse, they were still treating their brother like he didn't matter. "Jamal," I whispered, "how are you feeling?" "Scared, Grandma. What if the judge makes me go back home?" "If that happens, I promise you that your whole family will make sure you're safe. Uncle Terrell, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Marcus, Aunt Angela, and me. We won't let anyone hurt you again." "But what if Daddy gets mad at me for telling on him?" I looked at this sweet little boy who was still worried about protecting the people who had hurt him. That's what 8-year-old children do. They love their parents even when their parents don't deserve it. "Baby, you didn't do anything wrong. You told the truth about what happened to you. That's always the right thing to do." Finally, our names were called. We all walked into the courtroom, and I felt like my heart was going to beat out of my chest. Judge Martinez was a small woman with kind eyes, but when she spoke, her voice was serious and strong. She looked at all the papers Terrell had filed, then looked at Derek and Brittany. "Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I've read the reports about what happened on Thanksgiving Day. Can you explain to me why you felt it was appropriate to leave an 8-year-old child outside in 15-degree weather?" Derek stood up. "Your Honor, our son spilled juice on his sister's expensive dress. We were teaching him to be more careful with other people's property. By leaving him outside for hours in potentially deadly conditions." Brittany stood up next to Derek. "Your Honor, we never intended for Jamal to be in any real danger. We were just trying to teach him a lesson about consequences. Mrs. Williams, are you aware that your son was showing signs of hypothermia when his grandmother found him?" Brittany looked surprised. "Hypothermia? That's impossible. He was only outside for a few hours." "According to the medical report, a few more hours and your son could have suffered permanent injury or death." The courtroom was completely quiet. Derek and Brittany looked at each other, and for the first time, they looked worried. Judge Martinez continued, "I'm also looking at reports from the social worker about a pattern of differential treatment. Can you explain why Jamal seems to receive much harsher punishments than your other children?" Derek's lawyer whispered something in his ear, then Derek said, "Your Honor, all of our children are disciplined according to their individual needs." "Mr. Williams, when was the last time Madison or Tyler were locked outside as punishment?" Derek was quiet. "When was the last time Madison or Tyler were made to sleep in the garage?" Still quiet. "When was the last time Madison or Tyler were excluded from family meals or activities?" Derek finally said, "Your Honor, Madison and Tyler don't require that level of discipline." "Because they don't spill juice or break lamps?" "Because they're more responsible." Judge Martinez looked at Derek for a long moment, then wrote something on her papers. "Mr. Williams, Jamal is 8 years old, Madison is 10, and Tyler is 12. Are you telling me that you expect the same level of responsibility from an 8-year-old as you do from children who are older? Derek's lawyer whispered to him again, but Derek ignored him. Your Honor, age is just a number. Jamal needs to learn to be more careful. I watched Judge Martinez's face change. She looked angry now. Mr. Williams, age is not just a number when we're talking about child development and appropriate expectations. An 8-year-old child spilling juice is normal behavior. Locking that child outside in freezing weather is child endangerment. Then Judge Martinez turned to look at Jamal. Son, can you come up here and talk to me? Jamal looked scared, but he walked up to the judge's desk. Jamal, I want you to know that you're not in trouble, okay? I just want to ask you a few questions. Okay, Jamal said in a tiny voice. When you spilled the juice on your sister's dress, did you do it on purpose? No, ma'am, it was an accident. I was trying to reach across the table to get some napkins, and my elbow hit the cup. Did you apologize? Yes, ma'am, right away. I said I was sorry, and I would help clean it up. What did your parents say? Jamal looked back at Derek and Brittany, then at me. They said I was clumsy and careless, and I ruined Madison's dress on purpose because I was jealous that she had something nice. Were you jealous? No, ma'am. I was happy that Madison got a new dress. She looked really pretty. Judge Martinez wrote more notes. Jamal, do you love your parents? Yes, ma'am. Do you love your brother and sister? Yes, ma'am. Do you want to go home with them today? Jamal was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I want to go home with Grandma Rose. Judge Martinez nodded. Okay, Jamal, you can go sit back down. When Jamal came back to sit next to me, I could see that Brittany was crying. But Derek still looked angry. Based on everything I've heard today, Judge Martinez said, I'm granting temporary custody of Jamal Williams to his grandmother, Rose Williams. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, you will be allowed supervised visits with your son while you attend mandatory parenting classes and family counseling. Derek jumped up. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. You are taking away our son because we disciplined him? Mr. Williams, I'm protecting a child who was nearly killed by your idea of discipline. If you want your son back, you'll need to prove that you can provide a safe and loving home for him. As we left the courthouse, Derek grabbed my arm in the parking lot. Mom, this is insane. You're destroying our family. I pulled my arm away. Derek, I didn't destroy your family. You did. When you decided that one of your children didn't deserve the same love and protection as the others. Jamal is difficult. You don't know what it's like living with him every day. I know exactly what it's like, Derek. I've been taking care of him for the past week, and he's been nothing but sweet and helpful and grateful for every bit of kindness. That's because he's on his best behavior with you. No, Derek. It's because he's finally being treated with love and respect. As I drove away with Jamal buckled safely in the back seat, I thought about how much my life was about to change. I was 67 years old, and I was starting over as a full-time parent to an 8-year-old boy. But when I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Jamal smiling for the first time in days, I knew I had made the right choice. What I didn't know was that Derek and Brittany weren't going to give up that easily, and the revenge they were planning would test everything I thought I knew about my own son. 2 weeks after the court hearing, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Jamal was settling into life at my house, sleeping through the night without nightmares, and even laughing again. He had started calling my spare bedroom his room and helped me pick out new curtains with dinosaurs on them. That's when Derek showed up at my door with the police. I was helping Jamal with his homework at the kitchen table when I heard the knock. Through the window, I could see 2 police officers standing behind Derek on my front porch. "Grandma, why are the police here?" Jamal asked, his voice shaking. "I don't know, baby, but whatever happens, you stay right here at this table, okay?" I opened the door, and Derek pushed past me into my house before I could say anything. "There he is," Derek said to the officers, pointing at Jamal. "That's my son. This woman kidnapped him and won't give him back." Officer Johnson, the older of the 2 policemen, looked confused. "Ma'am, is this your grandson?" "Yes, he is, and I have legal custody of him." I showed him the court papers that Terrell had given me. Officer Johnson read the papers carefully, then looked at Derek. "Mr. Williams, these documents show that this lady has temporary custody of your son, granted by Judge Martinez. She didn't kidnap anyone." Derek's face turned red. "Those papers are fake. She's lying about everything. I want my son back right now." The younger officer, Officer Davis, knelt down next to Jamal. "Hey there, son. Are you okay? Do you feel safe here?" Jamal nodded. "Yes, sir. Grandma Rose takes good care of me." "Has anyone hurt you or scared you?" Jamal looked at Derek, then back at the officer. "Not since I've been here." Officer Johnson pulled Derek aside. "Mr. Williams, these custody papers are legitimate. If you have a problem with the court's decision, you need to take it up with the court, not with us." "But she's filling his head with lies about me and his mother. She's turning him against his own family." "Sir, that's still a matter for the family court, not the police department." After the officers left, Derek stood in my living room staring at Jamal like he was looking at a stranger. "Jamal, get your stuff. You're coming home with me right now." "Derek, he's not going anywhere. The court gave me custody." "The court made a mistake. Jamal, I said get your stuff." Jamal looked terrified. He grabbed onto my hand and wouldn't let go. "I don't want to go, Daddy. I like it here." Derek's face got even redder. "You don't get to choose, Jamal. I'm your father, and you'll do what I tell you." "Actually, Derek, he does get to choose. That's exactly what the judge said." Derek took a step toward Jamal, and I moved between them. "Derek Christopher Williams, you get out of my house right now." "This isn't over, Mom. I'm going to prove that you're an unfit guardian. I'm going to get my son back. And when I do, you'll never see him again." After Derek left, I called Terrell immediately. "Uncle Terrell, Derek just came here with the police, trying to take Jamal." "What? The police should have told him the custody order is legal." "They did, but Derek is threatening to prove I'm an unfit guardian. Can he do that?" There was silence on the phone for a moment. "Aunt Rose, he can try, but based on everything we have documented about his treatment of Jamal, I don't think any judge would side with him." But I was wrong about that. 3 days later, I got a call from Mrs. Henderson, the social worker. "Mrs. Williams, I need to inform you that Derek and Brittany Williams have filed a complaint claiming that you're too old to properly care for Jamal and that you're alienating him from his parents and siblings." "That's ridiculous. Jamal is thriving here." "I believe you, Mrs. Williams, but I'm required to do another home visit and interview Jamal again." "Of course. When do you want to come over?" "Actually, Mrs. Williams, there's something else. Derek Williams has hired a private investigator to document your daily activities with Jamal. My blood went cold. What does that mean? It means someone might be watching you and taking pictures or video of you and Jamal. They're looking for any evidence that you're not providing proper care. Mrs. Henderson, I take Jamal to school every day, help him with homework, make sure he eats healthy meals, and tuck him into bed every night. What more could they want? Mrs. Williams, I'm on your side, but you need to be extra careful. Don't give them any ammunition to use against you. That afternoon, I was walking Jamal home from school when I noticed a man in a gray car following us. He had been parked outside the school when we left, and now he was driving slowly behind us, taking pictures with a big camera. "Grandma, why is that man taking pictures of us?" Jamal asked. I didn't want to scare him, so I said, "Some people are just curious, baby. Don't worry about it." But I was worried, very worried. The next week, Mrs. Henderson came for her follow-up visit. She spent 2 hours at my house, checking every room, looking at Jamal's schoolwork, and asking him dozens of questions about how I was taking care of him. "Jamal, do you like living with your grandmother?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. She's really nice to me." "Does she make sure you eat good food?" "Yes, ma'am. She makes pancakes for breakfast and helps me pack my lunch for school. And she lets me help cook dinner." "Does she help you with your homework?" "Every day, and she reads me stories before bed." "Do you miss your parents and your brother and sister?" Jamal was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes, but I don't miss being in trouble all the time." Mrs. Henderson wrote notes, then talked to me privately. "Mrs. Williams, Jamal seems very happy and well cared for. Your house is clean, he's doing well in school, and he appears to be emotionally healthy. So there's no problem?" "Not from my perspective, but I have to warn you, Derek Williams is building a case that you're too elderly to handle the physical demands of raising an active 8-year-old. I'm 67, not 97. I'm in perfect health." "I know that, Mrs. Williams, but his lawyer is arguing that Jamal needs younger parents who can keep up with him physically." "Mrs. Henderson, Derek and Brittany had a young, active child, and they locked him outside to freeze to death. Age has nothing to do with being a good parent. I agree with you completely, but the court will have to make that decision." 2 weeks later, we were back in court. This time, Derek had brought a fancy lawyer from downtown, and they had a thick folder full of papers and photographs. Derek's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, stood up and addressed Judge Martinez. "Your Honor, my clients are loving parents who made one mistake in judgment. They have completed parenting classes and family counseling as the court required. Meanwhile, their son is being raised by a 67-year-old woman who cannot provide the active, energetic home environment that an 8-year-old boy needs." Mr. Peterson showed the judge pictures that the private investigator had taken of me and Jamal. As you can see in these photographs, Mrs. Rose Williams struggles to keep up with Jamal during physical activities. In this picture, she's sitting on a bench while Jamal plays alone at the park. In this one, she's letting him walk several feet ahead of her because she can't walk as fast as he can. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were taking innocent pictures of a grandmother, spending time with her grandson, and turning them into evidence that I was neglecting him. "Your Honor, Mr. Peterson continued. Jamal needs parents who can run with him, play sports with him, and keep up with the energy level of a growing boy. Mrs. Williams, through no fault of her own, simply cannot provide that level of active care. Judge Martinez looked at the pictures, then looked at me. Mrs. Williams, how do you respond to these concerns? Terrell stood up. Your Honor, my Aunt Rose has been caring for Jamal for over a month, and in that time his grades have improved. His emotional health has stabilized, and he has shown no signs of being neglected or under-supervised. But can she provide the physical activity that a young boy needs? Judge Martinez asked. Before Terrell could answer, Jamal stood up in his chair. Your Honor, can I say something? Judge Martinez smiled. Of course, Jamal. Grandma Rose plays with me every day. She throws a ball with me in the backyard. She takes me to the park and pushes me on the swings. She teaches me how to cook and how to fix things that are broken. She helps me build Lego castles and reads me stories with funny voices. Jamal looked directly at Derek and Brittany. When I lived with Mommy and Daddy, they never played with me. They were always too busy or too tired. Tyler and Madison got to do fun stuff, but I had to stay in my room. Judge Martinez was writing notes as Jamal talked. Your Honor, Jamal continued, I don't need someone to run fast with me. I need someone who loves me and makes me feel safe. Grandma Rose does that every day. Derek's lawyer looked frustrated. Your Honor, children don't always know what's best for them. They need parents who can provide proper guidance and discipline. Like locking them outside in freezing weather? Judge Martinez asked. Your Honor, my clients have learned from that mistake. They've completed counseling and are ready to provide a proper home for their son. Judge Martinez looked at Derek and Brittany. Mirren Mrs. Williams, what have you learned from your counseling sessions? Derek stood up. Your Honor, we've learned that we need to be more patient with Jamal and use different discipline methods, such as taking away privileges instead of other punishments. Mr. Williams, do you believe that what you did on Thanksgiving Day was wrong? Derek looked at his lawyer, then back at the judge. Your Honor, I believe it was excessive. That's not what I asked. Do you believe it was wrong? Derek was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I believe it was a mistake. Mr. Williams, there's a difference between making a mistake and nearly killing your child. Do you understand that difference? Derek looked angry again. Your Honor, I would never hurt my son. But you did hurt him. You left him outside in deadly weather for hours. He wasn't going to die. He's tougher than everyone thinks. Judge Martinez wrote more notes, then looked at Brittany. Mrs. Williams, what have you learned from counseling? Brittany stood up. Your Honor, I've learned that I need to be more supportive of my husband's parenting decisions and help create a united front in our discipline. I felt sick to my stomach. Even after counseling, Brittany still thought Derek's parenting decisions were the right approach. Judge Martinez must have felt the same way because her face got very serious. Mrs. Williams, the question isn't whether you should support your husband's parenting decisions. The question is whether those decisions are harmful to your child. Well, Your Honor, we're both learning to make better decisions together. Mrs. Williams, do you believe that leaving Jamal outside in 15-degree weather was the right decision? Brittany looked at Derek, then at her lawyer. Your Honor, I think maybe we could have handled it differently. That's still not an answer. Do you think it was wrong to endanger your child's life? Brittany was quiet. Mrs. Williams, I need you to answer the question. Finally, Brittany said, Your Honor, I don't think we were trying to endanger his life. But do you think you did endanger his life? More silence. Judge Martinez put down her pen and looked at Derek and Brittany for a long moment. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I've been a family court judge for 15 years. In that time, I've seen parents make many different kinds of mistakes. But what I've never seen is parents who nearly killed their child and still refuse to admit that what they did was completely wrong. Derek started to say something, but Judge Martinez held up her hand. Mr. Williams, you just told me that leaving your 8-year-old son outside in potentially deadly weather was excessive and a mistake. Mrs. Williams, you told me that you could have handled it differently and that you weren't trying to endanger his life. She picked up the medical report from Jamal's emergency room visit. According to this doctor, Jamal was showing signs of hypothermia when his grandmother found him. The doctor states that another hour outside could have resulted in permanent injury or death. Yet neither of you can bring yourselves to say that what you did was wrong. Derek's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my clients have completed court-mandated counseling and are prepared to. Mr. Peterson, your clients completed counseling and learned nothing from it. They still believe their actions were justified. Judge Martinez turned to look at me and Jamal. Mrs. Williams, I've reviewed the social worker's reports about Jamal's progress in your care. His grades have improved from C's and D's to A's and B's. His teacher reports that he's more confident and participative in class. The doctor's report shows that he's gained weight and appears emotionally healthier. She looked at the pictures Derek's lawyer had presented. As for the concerns about your age, Mrs. Williams, I see nothing in these photographs that shows neglect or inadequate supervision. I see a grandmother who takes her grandson to the park, sits on a bench where she can watch him play, and walks at a reasonable pace while holding his hand for safety. Derek jumped up. Your Honor, she's too old. What happens when he gets older and needs more active parenting? Judge Martinez looked at Derek with disgust. Mr. Williams, your son needs love, safety, and stability. Age is irrelevant if those needs are being met. She wrote something on her papers, then looked up at everyone in the courtroom. I am making the temporary custody arrangement permanent. Jamal Williams will remain in the full custody of his grandmother, Rose Williams. Derek and Brittany both started talking at once, but Judge Martinez wasn't finished. Furthermore, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, your visits with Jamal will remain supervised until such time as you can demonstrate genuine understanding of the harm you caused and genuine commitment to his well-being. Your Honor, this is insane, Derek shouted. You're giving our son to an old woman who can't even keep up with him. Mr. Williams, I'm giving your son to someone who loves him enough to protect him from the people who nearly killed him. As we left the courthouse, Derek grabbed my arm again. Mom, this isn't over. I'll appeal this decision. I'll fight you until I get my son back. I looked at my son, this man who had once been my sweet little boy, and I realized that I didn't recognize him anymore. Derek, I hope someday you understand that I didn't take Jamal away from you. You threw him away. I just caught him before he hit the ground. 6 months later, Jamal and I were sitting at our kitchen table, working on a science project about the solar system. He was excited because he had gotten an A+ on his last math test, and his teacher had called to tell me what a joy he was to have in class. "Grandma Rose," he said, looking up from his poster of Jupiter, "do you think Daddy will ever want to see me again?" Derek and Brittany had stopped showing up for their supervised visits after the 2nd month. They said it was too artificial and they would wait until they could have real visits with Jamal alone. "Baby, your daddy loves you. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and it takes them a long time to figure out how to fix them." But what if he never figures it out? I put down my scissors and looked at this beautiful, smart, funny little boy who had been thrown away like garbage by the people who were supposed to love him most. Then that's his loss, Jamal. Because you are the most wonderful person I know, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to have you in their life. Even if it's my daddy, especially if it's your daddy. That night, after Jamal fell asleep, I sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened. I had gained a grandson, but I had lost a son. Derek hadn't spoken to me since the day we left the courthouse. But when I looked at Jamal's report card on the refrigerator, covered in A's and B's, and when I remembered how he had laughed at dinner that night while telling me about his day at school, I knew I had made the right choice. Sometimes love means holding on tight, but sometimes it means letting go of the people who hurt the ones you're trying to protect. A year later, Jamal and I were making Christmas cookies when the phone rang. It was Derek. "Mom, I want to apologize." I was so shocked I almost dropped the phone. "Derek? I've been going to therapy, real therapy, not court-ordered classes, and I'm starting to understand what I did to Jamal." I sat down at the kitchen table. Jamal looked up from rolling cookie dough. "What do you understand, Derek?" "I understand that I nearly killed my son because I was angry at him for being a child. I understand that I blamed an 8-year-old boy for having normal 8-year-old behavior." I started crying. These were the words I had been waiting to hear for over a year. "Derek, what changed?" "Brittany and I got divorced. When she left, she told me that I was a terrible father and that Jamal was better off without us. And instead of getting angry, I realized she was right." "Derek, Mom, I don't know if you'll ever let me see Jamal again. I don't even know if I deserve to see him. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to him, and I'm sorry for what I did to you." I looked at Jamal, who was listening to every word. "Derek, Jamal is right here. Do you want to talk to him?" There was silence on the phone. Then Derek said, "Only if he wants to talk to me." I held the phone out to Jamal. "It's your daddy. He wants to apologize to you." Jamal took the phone with flour-covered hands. "Hi, Daddy." "Jamal, I'm so sorry for how I treated you. I was wrong, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry." "It's okay, Daddy." "No, it's not okay. What I did was terrible, and you didn't deserve it." "Daddy, are you going to be nice to me now?" "Jamal, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for how mean I was to you." When Jamal hung up the phone, he looked at me with his big brown eyes. "Grandma Rose, does this mean I have to go live with Daddy again?" "Not unless you want to, baby. This is your home for as long as you want it to be." "I want to stay with you, but maybe Daddy can come visit sometimes?" "If that's what you want, that's what I want." Derek did start visiting, slowly, carefully, and always supervised by me. It took him 2 years of therapy and consistent effort before I felt comfortable letting him take Jamal anywhere alone. But the most important thing was that Jamal learned something that every child deserves to know: that there are people in the world who will love him unconditionally, protect him from harm, and never, ever throw him away. And on cold winter days, when the snow is falling and the temperature drops, Jamal and I make hot chocolate and sit by the fire, and he knows he will never, ever have to be cold and alone again. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.